good morning or afternoon, depending on what time you're actually watching this video. For Jordan and I, this is morning. Anyways, back to, this is great. It's been a week now. We're on our second video. I look forward to doing a lot more of these. This week, we're really excited to be putting out Bonte again. And this is Bonte Pear. Just to talk a little bit about what this series is. So my inspiration when coming up with these recipes was, there's kind of this this story of lambic and saison, how they kind of came together in the Franco-Belgian area, and in the old world saison. There was this kind of story, and whether it was true or not, I just thought it had such a great premise for making a great beer that it was something we wanted to kind of chase down. And it was in a book called Wild Brews. There's a little section talked about it, and basically the farmers making the Belgian style saison, they would take a small portion of lambic beer they would get from a lambic producer and blend a little bit of that into their saison each year. So the reason they would do that is, A, it would add this nice tart acidity, but it would also kind of pre-inoculate that bottle or that barrel or whatever they were storing that beer in. That would pre-inoculate it, so you'd be getting the good bacteria in there that would help basically keep all the bad spoiler bacteria out of the mix. So in that, you would create obviously like a very lightly tart. Brettanomyces would be a big piece of the flavor profile, as I imagine. And so that was kind of the base idea for what Bonte is. And Bonte just means the goodness. And the reason it's called the goodness is it's focused, right now it's only focused on 3 fruits. And maybe one day we'll add another fruit to the mix, but this is to be a very agrarian feeling, European feeling beer. Very old world, really take you to that place. This should be something you drink and you go, I can imagine sitting in the Belgian countryside drinking this beer. So for this beer, we're using pears, we're using French pears, we're using whole French pears. We bring them in whole. They were processed in-house by hand. And I think it adds a lightness and a brightness to the character. The other 2 fruits we work with are figs and plums, those being Italian plums and Turkish figs. But pear, it's tough. I love pear. It's such a beautiful fruit. I think it's maybe underused in the beer space, and I think pear is one of those flavors that really translates to Belgian beer. To me, there's a lot of Belgian beers I drink that one of the esters that I'll always be looking for is pear. And I think that's in like the softer ones that are not so banana and clove and big, but the gentler esters that are really, really beautiful. So for me, I thought pear would be a really beautiful marriage for this beer. So the way we make this is it's primary fermented with our house Brettanomyces blend. After Brett fermentation, we bring it over. We blend a small portion of Cassette, our mother sour, so a small portion of golden sour. That's the reflective of the lambic piece I told you about previously with the story. And then all of that's moved into our foeders. Once it goes in the foeder, it sits there for 1 to 2 months until I kind of like where it is, till we see the fermentation and the maturation and oak kind of get to where we like it. And then we'll go ahead and put it in a bottle, let it condition. The bottle conditioning process is super important to this beer. You can see it is aggressively hazy, a nice bright yellow. We're using, I know I should always know my poundage, right? I think this is, beers in, 1, 2, half a pound per gallon. I'm pretty sure all the Bontes we're using about a half a pound per gallon of fruit. So that's a total of about 1,000 pounds of pears go into a 2,000 gallon batch. So anyways, in this beer, over time, this is another one, another point you can talk about. This beer, Bonte specifically, is like 6 months. 6 months shelf life is like perfect. Not for expiring, just like that's how long. If somebody buys a bottle and they're like, how long should I sit on this before I drink it? I think 6 months in, it is really amazing. I'm sure it's great up to 1, 2, 3 years. And could probably age longer. But I do think, we let it sit for about a month and a half in the bottle before we release it to kind of get it developed the way we like. But I've noticed from drinking through the cellar, 6 months in, these beers are just really magical. The acidity comes up a little bit. The Brettanomyces character is really round. Right now, being a fresh release, I get the Wicked Wheat House aromas, I get that clear Brettanomyces character that we get out of our yeast. I'm getting a graininess, like kind of like a fresh toasted bread or like raw cereal grains, almost like smelling a container of like Quaker Oats. And then obviously pear. I mean, pear is an overwhelming ester to me and aroma, and I think in this beer, it's really playing up those fruity components of the Brettanomyces. So yeah, and then flavor, man, just, nice, soft, dry. You get pear skin, a nice soft kind of There is a pear character, but I'm almost getting like a floralness to it too. I could say like almost like a honeysuckle or something. Again, nice grainy character. We are working with Riverbend malt, which I do think has like this very like rustic kind of grain husk character to it that really comes through in these beers. But you know, this is just a really beautiful marriage of acidity, balance in grain, malt character, fruit character, and then a nice subtle bitterness that's there just to keep it dry on the palate, but not at all be distracting from kind of the sweet suppleness of the fruit and grain. So anyways, one of my favorite beers we produce, probably my favorite in the Bonte series, but you know, that's still to be said as we go forward. Anyways, just a beautiful beer. I think, you know, people like this beer. It's a great one to be able to roll out, especially going into spring, because to me this is a beer that is going to make you excited about spring and a great bottle to hold on till maybe late summer and drink. So cheers.